Can you share? Can you see my screen now? Are
Yes,
we good?
we can. Yeah.
Wait, hold on. Okay, so you can see my screen. I see something else.
We can see your screen though.
Okay, good. So, hey, just want to thank you for inviting me aboard today. I was on the Texas CEO call earlier today, so it's great to see that group as well. And just want to start out just to thank y'all. I mean, obviously these are very tough times. We've seen a lot in the last 2 months as far as the national and local club organizations. One of the silver linings and kind of thing we're going to go over today is it has been awesome to see the innovation going on at the local level and how we've addressed this issue and how we're still trying to serve kids and how we're going to reopen. And this guidebook we're going to quickly go, we're going to go through is really the work of a bunch of local organizations and BGCA and a bunch of teams. And really this guide is going to cover some of the safety things and some of the things we need to consider as we get ready to open. And this guide is available to you on bgca.net right now. We'll show you a little bit where that's at, but I did want to give you an overview of it because a lot of it is built around the safety considerations as we open these kind of modified and certainly operating in a new way than we've ever operated before. More is just, so you want to kind of know how this has actually been worked on for roughly the last 3 weeks. A lot of our work has been, obviously, we've had to react very quickly and around of ever-changing recommendations around safety. But just so you know, I mean, this guide is put together with the input of over 50 club organizations through interviews and virtual meetings like this. We did club surveys. We've talked to a lot of external youth development experts, health experts, and then we've had teams across BGCA working on this for 3 weeks. So it was DODs, marketing, resource development, government relations, program, and of course the safety team, and all that went into this guide. And just so you guys know, this guide is designed for your senior staff, for all the program staff, and actually your board volunteers as a planning tool. So it's really getting all those teams, and what you guys are probably already doing at the local level, getting all those teams working together to figure out, if you've already been open, how you're going to operate, and then of course, if you're talking about opening, what kind of preparations you have to make. What you guys have already realized across the state of Texas is what we learned through all these conversations and what we've learned over the last 2 months is one size is not going to fit all. You guys have seen the news. What your governor wants to do in Texas is not what the governor's doing in South Carolina, or California. Everybody has their own recommendations on how we open, when we open. Everyone has their different phases. So this tool is meant to kind of help you adjust to what it is your local reality is around, the status of coronavirus in your community, what your local health department is recommending you do, and all those different partners you work with normally. And of course, we do know this is going to be a cross-functional approach as we open, even more so than a normal Boys and Girls Club operations. So really tight-knit work between all the staff, all the club professionals, the board volunteers, your local partners, and really those outside resources even more so. So what this guidebook will help you figure out is, do you need a different type of infrastructure? How are we going to keep youth and families and staff safe and supported? And how are we going to maintain our how are we going to continue to be relevant in your community while we have sometimes modified operations, whether it's a mix of virtual programming, certainly modified or reduced capacity, facility-based programming, and how are we going to really position ourselves for the future beyond this current crisis. And just so you know, this is the list of the 50-some clubs, and actually there's like 6, I think 5 or 6 of them are from Texas. I know Greater Houston's on here, and McAllen and some others. So want to thank all the organizations that did help with this tool from Texas to help it make it what it is today. So the tool is pretty basic. What you'll see is when you get it is it's broken up into 4 pretty straightforward categories. So business continuity and operations, safety, on-site club experience, and then the virtual club experience. You'll continue to see virtual club experience because, and some of you have already talked to the national organization about how some of this virtual club programming will probably continue even after we get back to full operations, because they've seen a lot of benefit in how to reach kids that we don't normally reach. So that's probably going to become a whole new thing for Boys and Girls Clubs nationally in general, about how we build that out and what it looks like in the years to come. And then each section of those 4 sections is really just three things: questions for clubs to answer, the things that you need to consider as you think about reopening for the summer, and for some organizations for the fall. I mean, we already have club organizations in this country that have already decided they will not be opening for the summer, depending on the situation going on in their state and so forth. You'll see recommendations for clubs, and then resource links for you to check out. So under business continuity, just some of the key things, and you guys will probably, a lot of you will be part of this conversation. Sorry, that's my dog. This is part of virtual meetings. Is cash flow analysis. So that there is going to be some budgeting considerations as you go back to operate, and you guys have probably already heard of some of this. I mean, one of the big ones are what kind of safety supplies we need. So there's going to be some additional costs if you're going to use masks and more disinfectant and gloves, and if you're going to do wellness checks at the door and need infrared thermometers. I mean, so there are some things that the organization has to consider financially. Another thing that plays into that are what kind of ratios do we need to maintain? Are we going to open, have to maintain social distancing, which lowers the capacity of our club facility? So we may be serving fewer kids. And if we're serving fewer kids, how are we going to decide which kids get invited back, which ones will have to be waitlisted, all those kind of considerations. And then what do you need to do to meet all your minimal legal, what are the legal risks about opening? Of course, a lot of that aligns with the recommendations we have from CDC, and what you'll see in most of our materials, and what you'll see in your own state recommendations from the governor is alignment with a lot of the CDC recommendations around social distancing, disinfecting, mask wearing, all that kind of thing. So you'll want to align with those as much as you can, to kind of deal so that you can tell your families and your kids, hey, we are following every recommendation to try to keep our kids and our staff and our volunteers safe during our operations. And so you'll see some of the recommendations on here. Most of club and boards are trying to develop forecasts for the next 4 to 6 months. Again, going into the fall school year and certainly through the summer. It's also a recommendation that clubs consider different scenarios, like the worst case scenario, the best case, hybrid scenarios. There's organizations talking about, what are our triggers if we have to reclose, if the virus spikes in our community and we get new stay-at-home orders, either locally or statewide. What does that look like? And so all this really means, as far as business continuity, more than ever, clubs are partnering, and I'm sure a lot of you are already doing it, is partnering with your local health department, first responders, your mayor's office, your county commission office, county health departments, all that, to help you, to guide you through some of these decisions on opening and when to open and what you need to open. And so in some of the resources you'll see, there'll be links to those in the tool, or to cash flow calculators and scenario planning. There's some great examples of what some other clubs have done. And then there's some third-party, just COVID-related resource library. Any questions on this part at all yet? All right, if you have any questions, feel free to post them in the chat box. So the next section on safety, safety is going to be pretty broad, and it's the largest part of the guide. And a lot of that is built around kind of revised, that all the clubs have had to look at new revised operational and emergency operations plans, because we have all these different scenarios. So, and you'll see recommendations and tools around that. Examples are, what do we do if one of our kids tests positive? What do we do if one of our kids or staff have a fever? And so it's all these new kind of scenarios that we have to prepare for around this virus and this infectious disease. So those have to be built in because you need those policies and procedures before you open so that everybody knows what to do as these things happen. So there'll be, so that, the other piece of that goes back, like we talked about, do we have vendors? Can we obtain the supplies that we need to do these extra procedures, and whether it's equipment or cleaning stuff or masks and all that. So that's all going to be part of the questions you have to answer. And depending on your locality, you have to decide. One part of Texas, the recommendation might be to do wellness screening where you're taking temperatures before they come. Another county might say, you know what, we don't, that's not going to be necessary here. So that's, again, going back to those partners and knowing who can help you with what, make those decisions. So you'll see the recommendations. And again, it's all about involving a lot of people around these decisions. It's a staff board partnership in making these decisions and developing these policies and procedures, because some of it takes research, some of it takes, you have to look at the CDC site. We provide the link, but if you guys have been tracking this over the last couple of months, the CDC has been changing its recommendations for child care centers, nearly every week. So there's new recommendations, new decisions around that. So it's very fluid on what those recommendations are, which is why those partnerships are so important. And then, like we've said, and you'll see it in our materials that we post on the coronavirus page, and I'm sure other people have alluded to this, the opening and how you open is going to be a hyper-local decision. There's not even alignment across states. So the state of Georgia, the governor in the state could say one thing, the mayor or county commissioner or county manager and could do something different. So it's going to be very local about how you make those decisions for opening and how you open. And then again, and we always recommend, is making sure around safety that you're always consulting with the legal experts you have on your board or your third-party legal assistance, and also your insurance carrier, your liability insurance carrier, around making sure they know what you're doing and they're providing everything they can as far as information around risk management and health, and health issues, especially as it relates to staff. So they definitely want to consult with them. And again, the resources will be there from we have CDC, FDA, OSHA resources that you can link to around safety. All right. And I know you guys already, like tomorrow, have some other things. I just want to let you know this is in the guide. I know you have some other speakers on some of the programmatic pieces that are in the guide as you go forward. The big, I saw it in the workout video. Your considerations for your club experience, the things that I see impacting it the most right now is opening while maintaining social distancing. And we've put in there a social distancing like calculator, so you can enter this, the measurements of a room, and based on square footage, we can tell you how many people should go in that room if you're trying to maintain 6-foot radius distance around those folks. And that'll help you determine the capacity of your club if you're trying to, if you're mandated or following one of those recommendations. So to me, that seems to be the biggest impactful thing, as well as some of the wellness screening and some of the procedural things around cleaning. How often do we clean? Is it going to be every hour? Is it going to be every 2 hours? Who's going to do that? But programmatically, the distancing thing seems to be the biggest challenge. And you'll see a bunch of resources around club experience. So fortunately, there's some great companies and some great websites that develop ideas around, just like you guys had the workouts a minute ago. So there are some resources and ideas on how to do some of that. But we have to educate the kids on how to do that and follow some of these guidelines and why they need to. And so as you guys, you guys work with kids, and we can talk about keeping kids 6 feet apart, but try to tell that to a room full of first graders and kindergartners. It's going to be some challenge, and we got to come up with some new strategies on guiding the kids around some of these new behaviors. So you'll see there's a bunch of playbooks. The American Camp Association has some great resources that are in there. They have games and some great resources. And again, it's kind of like between clubs and BGCA staff have really scanned the internet and Googled and called people to find these resources and try to put the best things we can find in front of you guys. And again, I know that we won't go deep in the virtual club program. What I would say about that, and you guys have seen some of our resources around virtual programming and safety as it relates to safety. The main safety things we kind of see from the field, and the main things to kind of watch is any kind of live virtual training, or activities, because you just want to make sure there's no private one-on-one contact between staff. The same no private one-on-one interactions that we want to maintain during normal club operations still applies in the virtual setting. But there's some great resources and pretty straightforward guidelines on safety in virtual. But I mean, and it is something we've gotten a better handle on over the last couple months, mainly through you guys who've been doing a lot of this programming and getting feedback from you. So there's a virtual club quick start guide that's really good. They have some separate documents on safety and considerations for youth protection in the virtual world, just in general. So there's also safety procedures you can share with your families for some of the non-Boys and Girls Club virtual things kids might be doing right now because they've been stuck at home and had stay-at-home orders and so forth. Okay. So I just want to show you, this is where it's at. I'm sure a lot of you have been on BGCA.net. All of our stuff around this programming and this guide, and you'll see a lot of our resources we have under safety and around this kind of business continuity. You'll also see a section in there we found, through clubs and a lot of you guys out there, we have found vendors that can provide some of the the safety equipment and supplies that we need, and there's various price points on there you can investigate. But the main thing we would tell you and share at this point is this guide, along with everything else on the coronavirus page, is updated pretty frequently. So this guide will be updated probably even next week. And I'll give you an example. Two of the things we're researching right now to add to this guide is we've gotten questions from the field around if we want to transport kids in the bus but have to maintain social distancing, how do we do that? So we're searching and asking people to see if there's some strategies already out there about how to do transportation while trying to maintain, some healthy practices around the virus. The second thing we're looking at that I already mentioned is what are some of the ways clubs are choosing which kids get to come back if we're having to do modified or reduced capacity operations. And so we're going to collect some of the best practices we've seen, clubs share with us and put that in the guide. So just know that anytime, like if you download it today, you might want to take a look next Friday. There will be a cover page right after the title page. It'll tell you if there's been an update and in what section was updated, so you don't have to filter through the whole thing. But do know that anytime you want to use it, you just might want to go back and check to see if you have the most current version. So when you download it, this is what you'll get. And I just put these kind of here so you'll see it's organized exactly the way I just shared with you. So there's 4 sections: business continuity, safety, on-site club experience, and then the virtual club experience. So it's right in that exact order. And under safety, that is a PDF document, but it is full of live links. So you'll see on here, all those colors in blue are live links to other resources. So some of them are guides and checklists. Some of them are activity. When you get to the program stuff, it'll be actual activity websites that you can use to plan activities for the kids. So all that'll be in there. And again, these websites will continue to be updated as we go along. And then finally, the other thing that you guys have that just got released, and if you haven't already seen it, was revised, May 18th, is your minimum standard health protocols for the state of Texas for child care centers. Now, and this is just the first 2 pages of it. It's actually 13 pages long. If you don't have a copy of that, we can get you one, or your DOD can get you that, or you can probably go to the governor's website and pull it down. But do know that most of these things, and you do want to pay attention to that because these are specific to Texas, but I've looked it over, it pretty much aligns with pretty much the CDC recommendations. but you do want to be aware of this document as you're planning to open, because you'll want to follow these recommendations, as well as then check with your local county health department to see, do they have some additional things? Again, I know, because I live in North Carolina, I know we're in phase 2, and phase 2 in different counties is different things. I mean, so, you know, some restaurants, some counties want you to wear a mask if you go to a restaurant. Some counties say, well, you don't need to wear the mask, only the staff need to wear the mask. So you do need to find out if there is a document like this for your county or the counties where your clubs are sitting, to make sure there's not some other local additional mandates or recommendations around, you know, how to operate. But this is a great document. It's pretty straightforward. And again, it's pretty new. So you definitely want to check that out as you guys think about operating your clubs. So finally, and the guide will end with this, and this is just kind of just give you an overview. Again, I know all your organizations in Texas are probably in different places. Some have been operating, some are just thinking about operating. But definitely you want, pretty much like what we've done to make this guide, you want to make your next steps are to make sure you have a cross-functional team made up of, you know, the club professionals, your senior team, the board, the key partners with your organization, to make a good group decision around these policies and procedures and decisions that have to be made around opening. Definitely engage your DOD. I heard that earlier. Because they can also keep you in tune to anything new that we have, or give you heads up of something else that we're working on at the national level that could help you. And so they'll be in tune with that. Believe me, there's 2 or 3 weekly virtual calls at the national level where we're constantly updating everybody. Hey, this is this new tool coming out that might help clubs, to make sure everybody's aware. And then a key thing for all organizations, you know, BGCA and every club local organization, is developing this 3 to 6 month cash flow plan around different scenarios. And again, you have to consider, you know, that we might open and we might have to close again, or, you know, what does that look like? You know, are we shifting between partial operations back to virtual? I mean, you have to consider various scenarios. And I don't know, you know, county by county where you are in Texas, as far as the fall school. I mean, if schools are open, that's one thing. If schools for some reason are closing, are not going to be open, or going to stay virtual for the first part of the fall, or maybe they're going to go to modified operations themselves. We're hearing across the country, some schools are considering a phase, you know, half the kids would come on, you know, let's say Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then the other half of the student population would come Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday, to try to make, to maintain social distancing and lower the capacity of the rooms. So all that, you need to think through all those scenarios. And then what we've already discussed is updating your safety and emergency plans, specifically around all these recommendations for handling the virus. Again, looking back at some of you and organizations in different places on hiring or rehiring, some clubs that furloughed or laid off folks and working to bring some back. Some clubs are having to do rehires or new hires. So all this stuff, all these new procedures are all going to have to be part of the reorientation for the old, you know, the existing staff, or new orientation for new staff. Because all this is going to be part of the, you know, all these new things are certainly going to be part of our job at the club level, you know, at least for the next few months, if not for the rest of the year for sure. And then be responsive to community needs. I mean, that's why we said these are going to be hyper local decisions. And so you really need to see what's going on in your community. Some clubs have been open to serve essential personnel and are expanding to their regular club population. But you really have to see what's needed out there and what you can do. A lot of clubs have done awesome jobs around grab and go meals and finding other ways to serve the kids and the families. And that's always going to be a big win for clubs, especially going into the future, because folks are just not, I mean, they're going to remember the kind of things you did to try to make this work, even with all these limitations. And then as always, and I'm sure you'll hear from the program folks, is try to, you know, we have to try to keep it fun and super safe for the staff and the kids. I mean, it's, you know, it's been a challenging time for them. I mean, we'll continue to, you know, try to think through and build into you'll hear more and more about trauma-informed care and how we help the kids through some of the trauma they've already been through in the last couple months. The kids who missed graduations, that not seeing their friends, being stuck at home. I mean, all that'll be things that we'll have to help kids deal with as they come back. So, and again, you'll get more and more support, especially from your local partners around, mental health, and all those kind of issues are going to be probably even more in the forefront now as we go forward. And then, as I already mentioned, I mean, virtual programming is not going to go away. It's probably going to be a permanent part of Boys and Girls Clubs from here on out. Some of you have gotten really, really good at it, and we've shared your great practices with other organizations. And I think there's going to be more and more of that, because the creativity and the hard work and dedication you guys have done out in the field is going to start being, cascaded to organizations across the country. So I think we're just going to get more, better in that. And really, it'll be a whole new way of serving kids going forward. All right, so I did want to leave plenty of time. Well, I left about 20 minutes or so for questions. And again, if you have any questions,